Here we go, kicking off another brand new hour, another brand new week of the Steve Gruber Show, coming to you live from the heart of America in Studio G. Here's a warning for you. Steve Gruber Show often results in extended periods of American pride, optimism, and uncontrollable enthusiasm in the future of this country. Kicking off the live broadcast, Andrew America's Voice, MTM, and reaching a global audience. This is the Steve Gruber Show, a no panic zone. All right, here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, my friends, the folks running X. Well, they're at it again, screwing with the algorithm, making all of us that are users crazy. I have no idea what Elon's doing, but he just needs to leave it alone. Number two, Joe Biden's team dodged a cognitive test for the former president in February of 2024. That's the revelation, brand new book. Can you imagine in retrospect if he had stepped down then and there was a full-out Democrat primary, would the results been different? Possibly. Number three, the truth. The truth will set you free. Unless you're Anthony Fauci, and then it might put you behind bars for an extended period of time, depending on what our National Intelligence Department finds in the coming months to support the entire psyop known as the COVID pandemic. That's right, the biggest cover-up in modern American and world history is getting blown up. I'm talking about the origins of COVID-19. It's exactly what I told you in the early days of the disease back in 2020 and ever since. This was a lab leak. It came from Wuhan, China, and the Wuhan Institute of Virology, period. In case you missed it, the White House has now given its COVID-19 webpage a complete makeover, confirming what we already knew to be true. The virus that shut down the world, killed millions, destroyed a generation of mental health, and tanked economies? Yes. It didn't come from some bat soup or a wet market fairy tale. No, sir. It came from a lab in Wuhan, China, and the evidence, it's all there. And it will be laid out soon if it has not been seen by you yet. Here is National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard laying out the latest.
To see but haven't, COVID and its origins. Yeah. Sure you saw that just before we sat down tonight, the Chinese State Council Information Office, I don't even want to know what that is, but it sounds bad. They have determined that COVID came from us, that it's more likely than not that COVID originated in the United States and not in China. I'm wondering whether you have any dispute with that based on what you've seen over here. The intelligence community has been responsible for trying to figure out, in part, how this thing started.
So I created a kind of a special teams group, the Directors Initiative group, that is focused on investigating a number of the president's top priorities and the things that the American people really deserve and want to know the truth about. The origins of COVID-19 is one of them. So they're actively working on that. A lot of the work that's been done is on covid.gov. Have you had a chance to look?
Oh, Trump changed it.
It's quite a transformation of the website. For anybody watching, if you haven't seen it, check it out.
It's the annoying website to which YouTube and all social media used to.
Yeah. The website she's referring to lays it out plain as day. COVID-19 most likely came from a lab-related incident involving gain-of-function research. It really is that simple, and it always was. Gain-of-function, the kind of mad scientist stuff where they juice up viruses to make them even more dangerous, all in the name, of course, of research. Where was this happening? As I said, the Wuhan Institute of Virology, of course. China's top SARS lab, a place with a rap sheet for sloppy safety standards. This lab was playing with fire. As a result, we all got burned. Gabbard says that she and other major officials are narrowing in on the exact experiment that may have caused it. Listen to this.
But the thing that we are working with Jay Bhattacharya, the new NIH director, on with, as well as Secretary Kennedy, is looking at the gain-of-function research that, in the case of the Wuhan lab, as well as many of these other biolabs around the world, was actually U.S. funded and leads to this dangerous kind of research that in many examples has resulted in either a pandemic or some other major health crisis.
Well, let me ask you specifically, because we already know that EcoHealth Alliance was partnering with this Wuhan lab to do gain-of-function research.
That's right.
We just have never been able to have somebody say, and it was that exact experiment that led to this COVID bug. But have we gotten there? What's the new thing that you're digging in on?
We are working on that with Jay Bhattacharya and look forward to being able to share that, hopefully very soon.
Okay.
That specific
Link.
Correct, between the gain of function research and what we saw with COVID-19.
I mean, that would be extraordinary.
Yeah, the NIH, now led by Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, is working hand in hand with Tulsi on all of this, but he says we need more transparency from someone else. Here's Dr. Jay.
I've gotten congressional subpoenas for all of the documents of the NIH that are related to COVID-19, and I'm complying with every single one. We're going to have, at least from the American side, all the things that we knew and were talking about, the U.S. government was talking about at the time and in the years running up to the pandemic. The problem is that the Chinese government won't give those same things to us. For instance, the NIH tried to get the lab notebooks from the Wuhan experimenters, and they wouldn't share that lab notebook with us.
Wouldn't share the lab notebook. I wonder why that is. What do you think is in that notebook? An unbelievable turn of events. China is now blaming the U.S. for the origins of COVID-19. Yeah, right. Telling America to take responsibility for its part in claiming that the virus was in the U.S. earlier than we were told. And although China's the one who needs to be taking responsibility, I think that they're right about the virus being here earlier. Now, we already know that the Biden administration hid more than they were letting on. The Pentagon has released a buried report that detailed the COVID-19-like symptoms of 7 service members. October 2019. Service members who had participated in World Military Games in Wuhan, China. If you've been with me for a while, you'll remember that I told you I believe the virus was here well before Thanksgiving. I mean here in America, before Thanksgiving 2019, maybe as early as October. You see, back in early March of 2020, I heard Ohio's health director, Amy Acton. She said she believed over 100,000 people in Ohio had the virus then. It was March the 12th, 2020. And that the virus had spread and it was doubling every 6 days. When I did the math and I worked it backwards, it was clear to me that this bug was here maybe as early as Halloween. I'll just add that to the list of things I was right about. If you work the math backwards, you're here well before Thanksgiving, maybe by Halloween, maybe a few days before that. Because while I was spot on in telling you the truth, the mainstream media, by the way, was feeding you garbage, nothing but garbage. Now let's talk about the virus itself. The White House points out something chilling. SARS-CoV-2 has a biological characteristic, a marker, not found in nature. It's just not there. Meaning this isn't some random bug that hopped from an endangered pangolin to a person. It's got a genetic fingerprint that screams lab-made, and here's the kicker. All COVID-19 cases trace back to a single introduction into the human population, a single point of origin. Unlike past pandemics with multiple spillover events, this one's got a singular starting point. It's not how Mother Nature rolls, folks. It's not how it happens. That's a lab leak with a capital L. Nice to see you on a Monday morning. We'll have more of this coming up because it gets worse. It gets worse. We'll take you back to the fall of 2019 when I return here on the Steve Gruber Show. Nice to see you on a Monday. You can always follow me, and please do. Follow me on X, Facebook, Instagram. You can watch live on YouTube. You can watch live on Facebook and X. We make it so easy. Don't miss a moment. Yeah, like I said, it gets worse. Everything I've laid out for you gets worse. The virus was here prior to Thanksgiving 2019. Months before the so-called wet market story broke, researchers at the Wuhan Institute were also coming down with COVID-like symptoms. Coincidence? Of course not. These folks were ground zero in the Chinese Communist Party. They knew it. They damn well knew it. But instead of warning us, they clamped down, hid the truth, let the virus spread while the world was in the dark. And who was funding this disaster? You guessed it, you were, by way of American taxpayer dollars, funneled through the EcoHealth Alliance led by Dr. Peter Daszak. This group was neck-deep in dangerous gain-of-function experiments, and when the Select Subcommittee exposed the violations, the Department of Health and Human Services finally pulled the plug on their funding back in April of 2020. That was under President Donald Trump in his first term. But now, there's going to be a lot more hell to pay. Let's shine a spotlight on the main villain of this story, Dr. Anthony Fauci, who could end up behind bars if Tulsi Gabbard finds he perjured himself. Listen.
Knows if that's true, if it was Peter Daszak's research with the Wuhan so-called bat lady that caused this pandemic, then we did fund it. Then Anthony Fauci helped fund the pandemic.
The thing that he denied over and over and over to Senator Rand Paul's questioning.
That's right, under oath.
Under oath, exactly. So is it any wonder that he sought a preemptive pardon for anything during a certain period of time by President Biden before he left office?
And then strong-armed and smeared people like Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, anybody who came out and said, I don't know if that's natural. This actually smacks of lab.
Yeah. And Fauci would love for you to believe that he's the patron saint of public health. But the White House report rips that mask off, which, by the way, seems kind of fitting, doesn't it? Fauci orchestrated the infamous proximal origin of SARS-CoV-2 paper, a slick piece of propaganda that criticized the lab leak theory and pushed the natural origin narrative like it was some sort of gospel. The paper wasn't science, it was a hit job, designed to shut down real questions that people like we were posing these daily on this program, on social media. And it was done solely to silence critics and protect the establishment. We got deplatformed. We got censored. The White House report doesn't stop with just Fauci's offenses. It calls out the World Health Organization for caving to the Chinese Communist Party, putting Beijing's political interests over global health. The WHO's pandemic treaty was just another globalist scheme that could hurt America. Another section to the COVID website. An expose of the Biden administration's censorship machine laid out. So no one forgets what they did to us. Don't memory hole that. Make sure it's upfront and clear what they did to us. They colluded with big tech to silence anyone daring to question the official narrative, including the lab leak theory. That's not science, folks. That's tyranny. Plain and simple. President Trump has been sounding the alarm since 2020 because he knew. He knew the virus came from Wuhan. He wasn't afraid to say it and call it the Chinese virus, even when the fake news media called him xenophobic for doing so. Now he gets to say, I told you so in grand fashion. His administration's new website replacing the useless COVID.gov is a transparency at its finest, a confirmation of what we all knew to be true. It lays out 5 ironclad points: the virus's unnatural traits, the single introduction, Wuhan's shady labs, sick researchers, and the lack of any natural origin evidence. If there was proof that it came from a market, don't you think we'd have seen it by now? Exactly. So here we are, America. The truth is out, thanks to President Trump and the White House. The lab leak isn't a theory. It's the most likely explanation, backed by science, logic, and what we use here, good old-fashioned common sense. And according to Tulsi, we'll all know for sure quite soon, but this is not about pointing fingers. No, we need much more than that. It's about accountability. We need to overhaul how we oversee gain-of-function research. No more playing God with viruses or anything else for that matter. Tulsi addressed that too. Here she is.
This gain-of-function research is happening in biolabs around the world. I got attacked, and I think you saw this. We've probably talked about it on your show before, when I warned against US-funded biolabs in Ukraine when the Russia-Ukraine war kicked off for this very reason. Who knows what kinds of pathogens are in these labs? and if released, could create another COVID-like pandemic. And for that, I was called a Russian asset. You're, trumpeting Putin's talking points, all of this nonsense, simply for speaking the truth and stating facts that, by the way, are still on U.S. Embassy Ukraine's website today about how the U.S. has funded these biolabs in Ukraine. But my point is, in order to prevent another COVID-like pandemic or another major health incident that could affect us in the world, we have to end this gain-of-function research and provide the evidence that shows exactly why and how it's in our best interest, the American people's best interest, to bring about an end to it.
Absolutely true. We must hold China accountable for unleashing this plague, no matter how serious or unserious it was, and the resulting vaccines. We need to make sure that Fauci's and the Daziks of the world never get near a lab again. That would be guaranteed with some real justice and a jail sentence. I wonder how many others were caught in COVID crimes that need to be brought in to answer questions. We'll keep digging on that, and I'll keep you posted. Meanwhile, by the way, at NIH, maybe you've heard about this, maybe you haven't. All the experiments on beagles, flooding them with bacteria, make them turn toxic to see how quickly they could kill them. It's come to an end. Dr. Bhattacharya saying we're not going to do that anymore. White coat waste, by the way. White coat waste. You can find them on X, White Coat Waste. They have been instrumental in stopping the butchery of beagles and other animals. That has been testified to that this kind of butchery on these animals would have no real value. Yeah, the NIH has been a special place under Fauci, Dazik, and all the rest of these clowns. Nice to see you on a Monday. It's the Steve Gruber Show. So much more to come. I'll be right back. Attention business leaders and entrepreneurs. This is the first ever men's only event packed with the most elite voices in business, leadership, and global strategy, built to give you the edge to dominate in life and business right now. Join Garrett White, the unstoppable founder of Wake Up Warrior. He'll be taking the stage at the Man in the Arena Tour. It's your blueprint to build, lead, and conquer. Seats are going fast. I got left behind on this one, my friends. Lock in your ticket now, maninthearenatour.com. Maninthearenatour.com. Step up, lead strong, win big. And I'm going to be there. Salt Lake City, a couple of weeks from now. Join me for this extraordinary event. Maninthearenatour.com. You don't want to miss it. It's one day, 7,000 like-minded men trying to figure out how we can do better. Make sense? Here's a bit of advice. Even to lottery winners. This is a crazy story. James Farthing won a $167 million Powerball jackpot in Pinellas County, Florida, just a few days ago. He's been arrested for kicking a deputy in the face. You're going to need some bail money. Yeah, you got $167 million, 50-year-old James Farthing charged with felony battery of a law enforcement officer. Don't do that, Jimmy. You want $167 million? Chill out, son. Chill out. Hey, if you're looking for great coffee, 1775 coffee. Not going to make me kick a guy in the face, but it will make me a lot happier to be here. 1775 coffee. No compromises. You know, some coffee is weak and corporate nonsense. Burned and homogenized. Not this coffee. 1775 coffee. Bold, high quality. Built for those who refuse to compromise like me and you. It's hand-picked, high altitude, single origin beans. You're going to love this coffee as much as I do. It's roasted to perfection. No toxins, no shortcuts. Just damn good coffee. If you want some in your cup, head on over 1775coffee.com. Promo code Gruber. 10% off your bill. Start your morning with coffee that stands for something. And every dollar you spend, by the way, that's an entry to win a Cybertruck and $30,000 in cash. 1775coffee.com. Promo code Gruber. Bold flavor, exceptional quality, no BS. Kind of like this program. Get it now. I'll be right back.
Dan Hicks with Paul Azinger.
Program. Good to have you here as we continue the conversation. My next guest I met at the Republican National Convention in July of 2024, and we very much liked her. We all did. Pam Evett is the Lieutenant Governor of the state of South Carolina, and according to the polling here, Pam, says you're leading if you want to be the governor of the great Palmetto State. Let's start with that. Do you have aspirations? Are you in the race? What's going on?
Well, I'm giving it serious consideration, and that poll was not something that I initiated. So it was one heck of a way to wake up one morning at 6 a.m. with getting text messages rolling in about the Trafalgar poll that had been released early that morning. So that's wonderful, and it makes me feel like my time as Lieutenant Governor has been well spent.
I would agree with that. Trafalgar Group, by the way, is one of about 3 polling companies that I trust. So when it comes out of Trafalgar Group, they're based in Atlanta, for anybody who doesn't know. I trust their numbers. If he says that you are winning, in an all too early, look, it's early. I realize that. The campaign will take you all the way to the fall of 26. But that's pretty good information to have. I guess it does stand as a testament to what you've done as Lieutenant Governor. And let's talk about that a little bit. What have your priorities been in South Carolina? I've got a lot of family in South Carolina. I'm reasonably familiar with the state. And South Carolina certainly is not the place it was 25 years ago. It's come a long way with industry and education and different things. What are your priorities?
So my priorities, well, I have a lot of them. First, Steve, I've been working really hard with the governor on school choice. We want to make sure that every parent in South Carolina has the ability to send their kids to the school of their choice. And we have seen around the country that the best educational outcomes happen when parents are in control of their children. And so that has been a big priority. We had a school choice bill passed yesterday. It's not exactly where I would like to see it, because I would like to see full, uninhibited school choice, but we're getting there, right? And so it's that old adage, Steve, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So I'm going to take the wins when they come. I've also been really passionate about youth employment, because, I came out of the business world. That's where I spent my entire career until I became Lieutenant Governor. And, sometimes you think it's just you. But every business that I talk to around the state really begs me and the governor to really focus on soft skills with our young people. Sure. Parents want to dive into fiscal responsibility, right? How are we teaching this? So for me, I read an article a few years ago that basically said youth employment was at the lowest it's been in our nation's history. And so I have put a big focus working with our Department of Workforce, along with our State Department of Education, to get kids working again and getting parents to support that. Get your kids off the couch, get the cell phones out of their hand, and get them in that starter job that'll teach them what they need to be successful through life.
And as you look at that, it's not the same thing that it used to be. LG. I mean, it used to be, if you want to be successful, they sent you off to college. They sent everybody off to college. Well, that's not working so well anymore. We all know that. College isn't for everyone. In fact, where I live, and I'm going to guess it might be similar where you are, it's hard to find a handyman. Plumbers, if you have an emergency, they'll come. But if not, it'll be a few days. Electricians, HVAC people, it's all the same. Because they're all jammed up, because they're all working all the time. And these kids can go out and get licensed in these areas by going to, specialty schools. And they could wake up at 22 with $100,000 in the bank, not $100,000 in debt with a college degree they can't make any use of. So we need alternatives for these kids, don't we?
We do. And right here in South Carolina, we have the best technical colleges in the world. And I say the world because I was in Germany 2 years ago on an economic trade mission. And when I heard people talk about Germany and their apprenticeship programs and their technical college programs, I really thought when I went there, we were going to have one day of deep diving into that I would pick up like, wow, this is something we should do here in South Carolina. And I'm here to tell you that South Carolina is leaps and bounds ahead of that. And businesses are relocating to South Carolina because we can give them the workforce that they need, really the workforce of tomorrow. So Steve, what the governor and I have been doing over the last 7 years is using our microphone and our bully pulpit to really talk to parents. Because it's not kids you have to convince that a technical college degree is an amazing degree. It's parents and grandparents and guidance counselors. And what we've been able to do is really change the thinking of that and stop looking at our technical schools and our trades as a second tier option.
I completely agree with that. Let me ask you about a couple of other things. I see states like Tennessee and Mississippi and other states getting a lot of investment business-wise. I know the same thing's happening in South Carolina. Your population is now at about 5.5 million and growing. But one of the things that sets places like Tennessee apart is they have no income tax. Well, when it comes to income tax and attracting businesses, do you guys discuss that in South Carolina? I think your top rate's at 6.2% currently. What do you think? Do you need to adjust down to compete with some of the folks in your neighborhood?
You know, South Carolina was ranked the #1 state by U-Haul. They ranked that on people coming to our state. So what a testament that we don't have zero state income tax, but we still have so many people looking at South Carolina and actually moving here. But we are working in that direction. I, for one, would love to see South Carolina in the ranks with Florida and Texas and Tennessee and have zero state income tax. I'm proud to say that during the governor and my term, we have definitely had the largest income tax reduction in the state's history. This year, asking the General Assembly to lower it yet again. Every year, South Carolina continues to grow. Our surplus continues to grow. Yeah. And we feel very strongly that people want to keep their money in their own pockets and not send it down here to Columbia. And so I'm very hopeful. We have 3 days left of session here in South Carolina that we will have we'll see another income tax cut before next Thursday.
You know, I'm a big fan of Low Country. I am a big fan of the Low Country. Been there a number of times. You know, look, I've been all over South Carolina. I got family in Greenville. I've got an uncle has a farm outside of Columbia, like you mentioned there, all over the state. And tourism, obviously, growing. And I know a number of people that have moved to South Carolina in the last 4 or 5 years. So you are attracting people, and for a variety of reasons. But the recreation opportunities are terrific there as well, aren't they?
Well, we are. I mean, there's nothing better than our beautiful beaches, right? South Carolina has 28 boat builders, Steve. So if you love the coast and you love the Low Country, then you got to love the water. And, you know, if I can just go back to our amazing technical colleges, you know, 7 years ago, I sat down with the boat builders in South Carolina, and they said, Lieutenant Governor, we need to produce a workforce for the boating industry. And I went to my friend, Dr. Four over at Horry Georgetown Tech, and said, hey, the boat builders have a curriculum. Will you put together a program here on the technical campus and turn them out the workforce they need? And I'm proud to say that they did that a year ago, and are opening up a whole new building when it comes to marine jobs, whether it be outboard motors or building boats. But yes, South Carolina, if you want to boat or you want to golf, South Carolina is the place to be. And everybody, all eyes were on South Carolina and the Heritage on Easter weekend, and I think we tempted everybody. As I said when I was doing the closing ceremony, if you're not here at Harbor Town, you need to get on your computer and you need to book your room for next year. Absolutely. It's one of the only courses on the PGA that you can actually play on.
Well, I look forward to seeing you again sometime soon. I've got to leave it there. We're up against a hard break, but I look forward to you, Pam, doing well in the governor's race, and we will visit again soon. Thank you so much. Let's dive right back into it here today. Look, did you know that weight loss in America is worth almost $100 billion a year? Makes sense. You've walked around, you see the size of these people. And now the pharmaceutical industry has jumped on that train, the cash train, if you will. They have decided that, hey, we can cash in, but I don't know if it's a good idea. I say that because join me as Missy Malone. She's from My Pure Health Solutions. I did this back in 2018. I went through all this. I lost weight. I lost over 40 pounds in about 60 days. The program works. No shots, no heavy drugs, just figuring out what my body did compared to everybody else. Missy, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me.
I say this to folks because it worked for me, and if it works for me, it could work for you. And I've done a couple of tune-ups since, but I never went back to where I started. It wasn't this yo-yo thing. You know, I could lose another 15 pounds today. I could probably do a little tune-up now, but I haven't. But at some point, I will maybe. But the fact of the matter is, these shots, these heavy chemicals, giving, well, let's just say it, giving Ozempic to 6-year-olds, not what I want to see happening, right?
No, the class action lawsuits that have been going on now for several months, and people not being aware of what they're actually injecting into their body is having devastating results in people. People are losing the stomach paralysis, colon paralysis. Have seen quite a few people come through our doors that have had some serious issues, and now they're showing that it's having rapid cancer growth in different areas of the body. So,
well, we had a phone call. We do Free for All Friday here. You know this. We had a phone call here. I think we've got a picture of this guy. Richard calls. He just wants to talk about something else, and then he goes, you know, by the way, I did My Pure Health Solutions. There's Richard now. Mm-hmm. He lost 140 pounds. I'm like, really? It was totally unsolicited. He said, I just want to tell you this. It is a great program. I think 140 might be the record for anybody that I know directly through your program, of people that have come through my show. Maybe not your personal record for the program, but for people that have been listening to this program and say, hey, I want to try it. That's a lot of weight, 140 pounds. He said actually when he was on the program, it's more than his wife weighs. He lost more than his wife. Right?
Yeah, and the thing is, it works for everybody because what's happening, what we do is we are a pure health solution. We are able to get to the root. We are able to get to the cause of what caused your metabolism to stop.
Let's do this.
Okay.
We've got a bunch of other examples. We can show Richard again and kind of go through the process.
Sure.
Walk me through the process. I want to lose weight. I decide that I'm going to go to gruberhealth.com. I'm going to sign up. I get on the phone. I'm on the phone with you, Missy. Mm-hmm. Walk me through the process.
Well, I'm going to get some vital information, which is what's your age, height, and weight, and how much would you like to lose? And let me tell you how we're going to help you. I take you through explaining how the body actually works, explain what makes the metabolism even work. It's 2,800 biomarkers inside the body. We have the opportunity, thanks to technology that was discovered 100 years ago. That was breakthrough technology 100 years ago. Today, I call it suppressed technology. This suppressed technology allows us to peek inside the body, looking at the specific 2,800 biomarkers to find out what cells stopped communicating that's causing you to be overweight.
So what makes my body tick is not what makes your body tick, Missy. We're different.
Exactly. So that consultation will go through all of it. We'll find out where your goals are, and then we'll direct you from there. And then we set up a following appointment, and we do a scientific scan on the body, and then we're able to customize a weight loss formula, detox formulas for you, and then we coach you weekly. People, we have, thanks to you, Steve, you are actually, because of you, we've got clients all over the United States.
Right, and I was going to say that. You don't have to show up at her office in Southern Michigan. You don't have to be there. Anywhere in America, they can ship the hand cradle out. Mm-hmm. It'll connect to the computer. Missy can examine what's going on in your body, take a look at the frequencies and what's out of line and how those biomarkers are working for you. And you can put together a custom plan no matter where they are. In fact, not even in America, anywhere in the world, right?
Oh, yeah. We've got people in Australia and Africa and someone in Norway on the program. I mean, we're able to do it. And the thing is like, you're going to eat real food. You're not buying fake food. We're going to show you, your body is going to turn back on. The metabolism will turn on day one. Right. Because of what we're able to do. And then we coach you through it weekly. We show you how to keep and then the best part about this is we show you how to keep the weight off for good.
And I keep glancing over, Anthony's running through a bunch of these different before and after pictures. I mean, these are remarkable. You've had people Richard, I
Yeah.
think it was, his blood pressure normalized
Yeah.
after like 4 days.
Oh, yeah.
And Richard, I appreciate him calling, by the way. It was a really great phone call. He's a great
He's
guy.
on fire. He's got a new lease on life.
Yeah, he does. And you've had people that came off from chemotherapy. I mean, and that's not going to happen for everybody. Look, it's not. But the fact of the matter is, once you get your body back in balance, good things can happen, right?
Exactly, because your metabolism is attached to your health. Your health is your metabolism. So we see people that if you're on blood pressure medication, you end up not needing it. Type 2 diabetic people within 2 to 4 days are typically finding that their blood sugar numbers are normal. And I've seen people come off the thyroid medication. I've seen people with eczema and psoriasis that have had it for 30 years disappear. That had nothing to do with metabolism. Oh, but there was dysfunction going on inside the body at a cellular level.
So be like Richard. That's what I'm saying. Be like all these folks here. Here's the deal. Look, I did it. If you follow this program, you know I'm not going to tell you to do something unless I'm intimately familiar with the product or the process. I did this, folks.
Right.
I lost, I think it was 47 pounds, 63 days. It was January 2018. It's been more than 7 years. I never went back to where I started. Maybe a little tune-up here and there, but I'll tell you this. If you don't cheat, it works. Missy Malone, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, like Steve said, the weight loss industry is in my opinion a scam. You're buying a one size fits all product, and you are a unique individual that needs a solution that's designed for you, and then we show you how to keep it off for good, and we're there with you every step of the way.
Every lighter step of the way.
Exactly, every lighter step of the way. I like
Look,
that.
it works. Richard, thank you for calling in. I do appreciate it. And all the folks here.
Yeah.
That put their picture out there. GruberHealth.com. You don't want the heavy chemicals. You want a chance to get your life back. You want to be able to look in the mirror. Your joints don't hurt. You just want to feel better. Generally, go to GruberHealth.com. Do that right now. GruberHealth.com. Missy, as always, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate it.
There you have it. We'll be right back. All right, so the left decided to make Abreu Garcia the poster child of their compassion. This guy who was living illegally in Maryland from El Salvador, who continues to have information pile out about him. Kilmar Abreu Garcia facing a narrative, a reckoning as allegations of violent and criminal behavior continue to mount against the man made to be the poster child to fight against President Trump's mass deportations. This is who Democrats support, not you. Have you seen what's going on in England, by the way? By comparison, yeah. In recent weeks, evidence has emerged that Abreu Garcia beat his wife, was caught trafficking illegal aliens during his time living illegally in Maryland. The fact that they went to the mat for this guy shows exactly who they are, frankly. They're people who don't put America first. They don't care about our citizens protecting our communities. So I'm glad the onion's been peeled back, said Kristi Noem. Chris Van Hollen, he was the senator from Maryland who went to El Salvador to see this guy, an MS-13 member in the country illegally who is, again, the poster child for these folks. Your health is your most valuable asset. I've got something here I want to tell you about from the Wellness Company. Because the Wellness Company is here to protect you and protect your health. From daily essential supplements to specialized immune boost formulas to this one, ivermectin and mebendazole. Ivermectin and mebendazole. It is the hottest thing going, folks. It's a parasite cleanse. I mean, that's what ivermectin is famous for, parasite cleanse. Dr. Peter McCullough was on the program here recently talking about it. It is a remarkable product. If you've eaten seafood, been around dogs or cats, you have parasites, ones you shouldn't have. You have some that you should and some that you shouldn't. That's the way life is. Find out more. twc.com/Gruber. Find out more about ivermectin and mebendazole. It is the hottest thing happening. Ours is on the way. We're going to take it with you, folks. And we're going to support this country and our health every step of the way. Hey, it's great to be off the ground another new week here. It's the Steve Gruber Show. We've got a lot more to come in the next hour, including more on immigration and what Democrats are willing to fight for instead of you. It is the Steve Gruber Show.
Today,
right, here we go. Kicking off another brand new hour here, the Steve Gruber Show in an all-new remodeled Studio G. Glad to have you on board for the conversation. Look, we're here to make sure that you're on top of everything you need to know and to make sure you have an American first attitude going forth today. Here are three big things you need to know to start this hour. Number one, the FBI looking for three suspects after a daring daytime robbery in Chicago. It happened Friday. They robbed an armored truck in broad daylight. Not clear how much money they got, but they're still on the loose. Number two, President Trump set the social media world on fire with his AI image of himself as Pope in a spoof. Many screaming about it, but many are the same ones who support abortion, so go figure, right? And number three, the blatant double standards when it comes to border security are ridiculous, to say the least. Here is the most remarkable bit of bad journalism. I don't know what to call this. So on CNN, they interview a drug trafficker. Works for the Sinaloa drug cartel. And CNN asking how they feel about being labeled as terrorists. How does a cartel drug runner feel about being called a terrorist? And what does he say to President Trump? This is CNN. Congratulations, Chicken Noodle News. You've reached an all-new low. I'll translate. Roll it.
This man is talking to us on the condition we hide his identity and location.
Can I pull up a chair?
He says he produces fentanyl for the Sinaloa cartel.
How safe or dangerous is this area to be in?
En estos momentos todas las áreas son peligrosas.
I mean, according to the Trump administration, you are a terrorist. I mean, the cartels have been labeled a foreign terrorist organization. What do you make of that?
Está fea la situación, ¿no?
Doesn't seem
Está
to
fea la
care.
situación, pero pues de todos modos tenemos que comer.
What's your message to Donald Trump if he's watching this?
Mi respeto, él tiene que según él buscar lo mejor para los suyos. Pero el detalle que ya están los
So what
consumidores.
he's saying here
Si no hubiera consumidores, pues uno le parara.
is that he
There is a
supports
lot of
Donald Trump.
violence playing out on these streets
He
here
has
at the moment, every
respect
day.
for Donald
right?
Trump,
I mean,
for
people
protecting
are
his
dying
country.
on a daily basis. Children are afraid to go to school. Do you have any sense of remorse over your role and your involvement in this group?
Claro que sí, claro que sí. Pues está triste la cosa, pero pues
The bigger problem, he says,
está triste la cosa, pero
American consumers. He has respect for Donald Trump looking out for his people. Rough translation. But with 100,000 people dying annually because of drug abuse, well, hard to, but it's remarkable. CNN, what is your message for Donald Trump? Who cares what his message is for Donald Trump? Why would anybody, the violent raging in Culiacan and elsewhere, you know, from Mexico across the border? Yeah. Meanwhile, Donald Trump asked about due process. Well, he sits down with NBC and ABC basically weekly now. Says we cannot have a trial for every person that came in here illegally. I agree with that. Here's the president.
Everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment says
I don't know.
as
It might say that, but if you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials. We have thousands of people that are some murderers and some drug dealers and some of the worst people on earth. Some of the worst, most dangerous people on earth. And I was elected to get them the hell out of here, and the courts are holding me from doing it.
But even given those numbers that you're talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me, and they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said. What you said is not what I heard the Supreme Court said. They have a different interpretation.
Is anyone in your administration right now in contact with El Salvador about returning Abrego Garcia to the United
I don't know. You'd have to ask the Attorney General that question.
Yeah, strange questions there. By the way, when it comes to deportation, when it comes to the commander-in-chief's ability to control illegal immigration, to control the border, every president's done it. Every single one. Biden almost not at all, but the rest did. Do you remember this from Barack Obama? Listen.
Even as we are a nation of immigrants, we're also a nation of laws. Undocumented workers broke our immigration laws, and I believe that they must be held accountable, especially those who may be dangerous. That's why over the past 6 years, deportations of criminals are up 80%. And that's why we're going to keep focusing enforcement resources on actual threats to our security. Felons, not families. Criminals, not children. Gang members, not a mom who's working hard to provide for her kids. We'll prioritize, just like law enforcement does every day.
Well, he also went on to say that if you're here illegally, you're going to be thrown out. You're going to face the toughest immigration laws ever. Paraphrasing a bit, but that's what the man said. So, if he can do that, why can't Donald Trump? The left-wing media didn't attack Barack Obama, now did they? Oh, and Hillary Clinton. All tough on illegals, too, until she caved to the radical left. Here's what Hillary used to say. Listen.
So, I think we got to have tough conditions. Tell people to come out of the shadows. If they've committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked. They're gone. If they've been working and are law-abiding, we should say, here are the conditions for you staying. You have to pay a stiff fine because you came here illegally. You have to pay back taxes. You have to try to learn English. And you have to wait in line.
Yeah, and you have to wait in line. Well, that's the way it's supposed to be anyway. I agree with Hillary Clinton on that. That was 2008. Of course, her position has changed dramatically, of course. Her position has changed dramatically. Now she's all for the illegals. Unbelievable. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? Capitalism has produced the greatest increase in human wealth, living standards, and overall flourishing. It's a good question. Ask 10 people to define it. 10 people will give you different answers on what capitalism is. Hillsdale College offering 40 free online courses, including one on capitalism. They have the Constitution, the Roman Republic, Genesis, Christianity in America. Understanding capitalism, the latest. Just 7 short lectures. You'll learn about profit and loss, private property, the rule of law, and why capitalism at its core is built not on greed, but on freedom and human nature. It's free, it's thoughtful, it's Hillsdale. Go right now to gruberforhillsdale.com to enroll. There's no cost. It's easy to get started. That's gruberforhillsdale.com. Register for free. gruberforhillsdale.com. Yeah. Capitalism. It's not evil. It's the foundation of freedom. Freedom. What's freedom? The ability to do as you please in pursuit of your own happiness. All right, Rob Manis up, retired Air Force colonel. The military's back. Recruitment surging. We'll talk about it straight ahead here on the Steve Gruber Show. All right, so we were told a lot of things during Joe Biden's time in the White House. By the way, I'm going to tell you a story here a little bit later in the program. In February 2024, his staff flat out refused a cognitive test for Joe Biden. That's coming out now in a brand new book. Apparently, the question was asked and answered, no, absolutely not. We were also told the border couldn't be closed without new laws. Not true. And we were told that the American military was on its way out. Apparently, that's not true either. Rob Maness, retired Air Force colonel, former wing and squadron commander, joining me now, veteran of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. Rob, nice to see you again.
Hey, good morning, Steve. It's good to see you.
Nice to see you. You're also in the Pentagon on 9/11, so you've been to a lot of exciting places, to say the least. Military recruitment. We were told, people just don't want to be in the military anymore. It's over. Apparently not true, because I think we're at a 20 or 25-year high in 2025. What can you tell me?
Yeah, just a few weeks ago, the Army had reached 85% of its goals already for this year. It had trouble reaching 65% last year, and even more trouble the year before that, Steve. Three big things that are going on here. One is leadership. The president of the United States that we have now understands leadership. He picked a Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, that has been a field grade officer and has led troops in the combat zones multiple times. And we appreciate that, is what these young people are saying. The second big thing is that, when you put priority on training your people to fight and win and survive in wars, instead of putting your priority on transgender surgery and trying to change the United States Armed Forces into something that it cannot be, because it cannot be divided. It must be unified, and that is our strength. Is unification is our strength, and that's what we've done for hundreds of years successfully, and we are now back to that. And then the third thing is families. Look, I come from a multi-generational service family, and families are seeing those two things. And now a lot of these kids that have been raised to respect the military service, to feel a sense of duty, to do something that's bigger than themselves and provide a service to their country, are seeing that also, and their parents are seeing it, and we're giving the green light. That's what's happening.
So basically, it's a complete attitude change. That's what it is, Rob. It's a complete attitude change about our country, the world, where we fit into it, where people fit into the military itself, right? I mean, look, this young generation that we have, most patriotic generation, maybe since my own, right? It's been a long time since we've seen these people. And I go back to like the pictures of the kids at University of North Carolina and elsewhere, ripping down those flags, putting up the American flag, and standing around the flagpole to defend it. It's a different day. Yes. And the young people, man, they are the future of this country, aren't they?
Yes, they are the future of this country. We had one of those flag-waving issues right here with the fraternities at Ole Miss. I'm very proud of those young men and women that defended the United States flag for that. And this generation is extremely patriotic, as you pointed out, and they vote for Donald J. Trump because they see that he loves this country and he's willing to step up and defend the country, but he's also not willing to waste their lives. Their lives are a precious resource to the United States of America and their home states, and they always have been. And having a commander-in-chief that understands that, who's also willing to appoint a Secretary of Defense like Pete Hegseth, is the absolute paramount reason why you're seeing this major shift. But we have a long ways to go, Steve. The president has got to get the rest of his people into the Department of Defense so that they can go ahead and remove all of these resistors that are still in place today. We hear about them every single day in the circles that I speak in, and we must get that job done, and they're well on their way to do it.
Yeah, let me ask you, Donald Trump, it seems that the media just, they want Pete Hegseth. They want him badly. And every time it comes up, Trump's like, I'm good with Pete. Pete's not going anywhere. Mike Waltz, obviously the bait and switch from last week, has the media with whiplash right now because they keep saying, well, he was fired. He wasn't fired. He didn't resign. He was reassigned. Donald Trump. And Donald Trump said the same thing, I think, that the United Nations job might be a better job than the one he had. What do you make of it? I mean, the media just, they want something. They want they want a scalp, don't they?
Oh, they absolutely do. When they saw that they weren't going to be able to go after Mike Waltz in Signalgate, they shifted right over to Pete Hegseth and tried to turn the machinery of the Pentagon itself onto him to investigate him through the Inspector General, the senior senators, one of which is supposed to be on our side of this discussion and debate, are insisting on investigations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, it's not going to happen, Steve. What's going to happen is we're going to continue down this path, and Secretary Hegseth is going to continue riding the ship of the United States Armed Forces. He's got some great service secretaries that are already starting to take their positions, like Mr. Phelan at the Secretary of the Navy, and he's going to be focusing on building ships, as Donald Trump calls him at the dark 30 in the morning to tell him to do, is from what Mr. Phelan tells us. And that's the kind of approach we're going to be taking. And the bottom line in all of this effort is to focus on these American young men and women that are willing to volunteer and potentially sacrifice their lives, write a blank check for the United States of America, because they know that we now have leaders that are in place and coming into place that are going to take care of the mission and take care of them so that we can win when called upon and come home with honor when we need to.
Well put. I'll leave it right there. Rob Maness, always appreciate you being here, sir. Thank you, as always.
Thanks, Steve.
There you have it. Well put. I mean, look, people want to serve this country. They want to put America first. Why wouldn't they? God bless America. We'll be right back on the Steve Gruber Show. All right, so I mentioned this earlier in the program, and I think this is remarkable. I asked Ivy, I said, when was the last time you heard of an armed car getting robbed? She goes, heck, that's been forever. I don't remember one either. Armored truck robbed at gunpoint, broad daylight, Chicago. It happened on Friday, 4:30 in the afternoon. Federal agents now seeking the crew of men accused of robbing that truck outside a Chicago area bank, broad daylight. 4:30 p.m. Friday, Blue Island, Illinois, so a suburb of Chicago. The FBI looking into it. 3 masked men, late teens, early 20s, carrying handguns, pointing them at the vehicle. Here's what I don't understand. I'm going to ask Ivy about this later when she comes on. I thought, you know, these guns are basically bulletproof, or these trucks are basically bulletproof. The gun shouldn't mean anything, right? They fled the scene in a little red car. Anybody with information, contact the FBI field office in Chicago. Dark-colored sweatpants, hooded sweatshirts, black facial coverings, light gray gloves. They're covered head to toe, and they pull up on this armored car. No word on how they got money. I mean, they're seen carrying, you know, these containers of money away. I don't know how much. They're not saying, of course, they never do. But wow, an armored car knocked off, 4:30 in the afternoon. You know, there's not nearly as much cash in circulation as there once was. So do they get, you know, $10,000, $100,000, $500,000? I don't have any idea. Interesting. Made for TV movie in the works right there, especially if they get away with it or strike again. Remarkable amount of spine it would take to pull that deal off. Yeah, anyhow, they need movie material, so there it is. Coming up, Kevin Coughlin will be here, the Ohio State Chair for U.S. term limits. U.S. term limits. What do you make of term limits? I ask you that a lot. I used to hate the idea. Now I've warmed up to it some. I'm not all the way across the finish line. Maybe he'll get me there. It's coming up straight ahead right here on the Steve Gruber Show. All right, term limits. What do you think of term limits? That's my question for you today. I think a lot of folks are for them now. But does it help us advance the cause of America? I mean, if you have somebody really good, do you want term limits? Donald Trump toying with the idea of At least he throws it out there to run for a third term. I don't think that that's serious by any stretch. He'd be 82 years old. I don't think that makes any sense. Kevin Coughlin is the Ohio State chair for U.S. term limits, a former Ohio State senator and representative. He joins me now. Kevin, nice to see you.
Good morning, Steve.
As I've mentioned numerous times in this program, I was opposed to term limits. I thought that's what elections were for originally. But then you see all this money come in. And you see people get elected because, you know, in the Senate race here in Michigan, Alyssa Slotkin, who won the Senate seat, outspent her Republican challenger, Mike Rogers. It's like 5 to 1, 6 to 1. It was just an obscene amount of money paid to win a Senate seat for the Democrats. And that money didn't come from Michigan people, of course. It came from outside. So tell me about term limits. What are your ideas? Why do you think it's important? And why do you think it's a good idea?
Well, you and I are in the same boat because when I was in the legislature in Ohio, I was not a big fan of term limits either for the same reasons you cited and maybe some others that we share. But over time, you know, we've had over 2 decades of term limits in Ohio at our state house, and the world isn't on fire. We've had good leaders, we've had bad leaders, but the business of the state has moved on, and we've injected a lot of new blood and new leaders into the mix, and that's been a positive thing. But, you know, what we're trying to do is we're trying to pass resolutions in state legislatures around the country calling for an Article 5 convention of the states specifically for term limits. And 11 states have done it so far. 19 states have passed resolutions for multi-issue conventions, including term limits. We're on the march in 3 more states, and next week we start hearings in Ohio on our resolution here. The goal is to get to 34 states, which will trigger the convention. Now, that's never happened, and we honestly don't think it will happen now. But what will happen is once you get to about 30 states or so,
how
Congress
many states are on board now?
Sorry?
How many states are on board now? I want to know how close we are.
11 for single issue term limits and 19 for multiple issues, including term limits.
So you don't think it's really possible to get there?
Well, I think it's possible to get there, and I think we're on the march. But what is likely to happen is what Congress has done in the past. When they see a convention of the states coming, they act on their own to preempt it. So we'll get term limits. It'll just be proposed by Congress and then sent out to the legislatures to be ratified. They won't let a convention of the states happen for any issue, for this or any issue. But we can force their hand. Sometimes our friends in D.C. need a little help to do the right thing, and this is the process to do that.
Yeah, sometimes they need a lot of help to do the right thing. What is your proposal for term limits? What is the take? How long in Congress? How long in the Senate?
Yeah, the official position is that it's non-specific. We don't have a specific proposal. There are proposals in Congress for 6 years, for 12 years. I think that because the reality is that Congress is going to be the one that sets this. We're fine leaving it to them to do that. They may even grandfather themselves in. That's fine. Just do term limits and get it out there and get it in the Constitution.
Well, you know, Congress is little more than a senior center anymore. You look at Mitch McConnell, for example, easy thing to say, has no business being there. He's long past his expiration date. So is Joe Biden. So are a lot of, I mean, we found a member of Congress from Texas, we being people looking for her, couldn't figure out where she was, found her in a senior home in Houston last year. She hadn't been to Congress in months. Her staff kept it under wraps. She didn't even know where she was. She had dementia so bad she didn't even know where she was, and yet she was still holding a seat in Congress. And that should be criminal, don't you think?
Well, and you had the Dianne Feinstein situation last couple years. Dick Durbin from Illinois just announced that he is going to leave after many decades in Congress. And he's self-aware enough to say, look, I'm going to be too old and it's time to go. We need a few more people like that. I'm less concerned about the age issue than I am just about the longevity and the fact that during the course of my lifetime, I'm going to be 55 years old this month. During the course of my lifetime, Congress has really screwed up a lot of things by giving up a lot of power, by getting lazy. And these are the people, they put us in this incredible debt. They've given away all kinds of power to the executive branch and really aren't doing their job that they're elected to do. And these are the people that are supposedly experienced and senior. And I just think that's an indictment in itself.
Yeah, here's my question, Kevin, because this is where I still get snagged, because the people that remain, if you limit the number of terms in Congress, 3, 4, 5 terms, whatever it is, the people that remain are the staff members, the people that float around, those that actually write the bills, those that are behind the shadow, behind the curtain, that don't get seen. They're the ones with the real power then. They might still be the ones with power now. Wouldn't it enhance the power of staffers and people that are unelected?
Under the current system, staff is incredibly powerful, quite frankly. The members of Congress are incredibly reliant on staff, and so it's important for them to have good staff. But I'll say that at the end of the day, the people who are accountable are the ones making the final decisions on things. That would not change in this situation as well, and we've seen that in Ohio. Which is why you have some policy, veering to this way and that way, as you have new members coming in, because they're impressing their will as duly elected members of the legislature.
Yeah. I guess we'll see. Where do you go from here? You're at 19. I'll just go with the big number, 19. You've got 15 to go. I guess my other concern about an Article 5 convention is simply this. You start the process of getting states signed up. There's no real limit on how long it can take to sign states up. Then you get to a point, could be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you get to the Article 5 convention, and yet it's switched, and the people in power maybe are the leftists now. They want to change everything, get rid of the First and Second Amendments, get rid of First Amendment so we can protect hate speech or whatever, and get rid of the Second Amendment so we don't have to protect those that own guns. That's my concern about an Article 5 convention. I'll give you the last word.
I share that concern, and that's why we're really pushing a single issue convention that would be locked into term limits only.
All right. I appreciate that. Kevin, greatly appreciate it. Good conversation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Steve.
Always appreciate. What do you think about term limits? Go to stevegruber.com. Send me an email. What do you think about term limits, really? I mean, it concerns me on a couple of different fronts there. It concerns me as far as who ends up with the power. Are the staffers that are left behind the ones with the real power? Are they the ones with the real power today anyway? Does it make any difference at all? I mean, maybe you don't, because here's the thing. Maybe as a lawmaker, you don't have real power until you're there for enough terms to be annoying. That should be a concern to people. That should be a concern. You know who's not going to be there that long? Sri Tanadar. Sri Tanadar, we're going to get to him in the next segment here. He's the guy from Michigan. Looks like he has a raccoon on his head. Is that a toupee? What is that? Looks like roadkill. He's the one that has put together 7 articles of impeachment against President Donald Trump, and the entire Democrat Party basically shunned him. Now he's being primaried, but he might have another career. Sri Tanadar. Talk about it coming up. like I said, Sri Tanadar. Sri. He ran for governor in Michigan. He had the strangest commercial. And he was on this program, and then, I don't know, he stopped coming along. Whatever. Sri Tanadar filed 7 articles of impeachment against Donald Trump, and it was almost instantly shunned by the entire Democrat Party, which is weird. I thought they'd be into such a thing. They love that sort of thing. Attack Trump without basis or reason. Sri's an unusual fella. I think that's a nice way. He's an unusual fella. He's got roadkill on his head as a toupee. At least that's the way it looks. I don't know what the hell that is on his head. Anyhow, but he's considering a career, an alternative career potentially. Anthony, go ahead and tune that up. It's by number 12. You tell me. I think Shree's got a future here. Listen.
I've heard that you sing. I want you to sing a song which meant a lot to you.
So here's for my wife. कभी कभी मेरे दिल में ख्याल आता है तुझे ज़मीं पे बुलाया गया है मेरे लिए.
Okay, so he has no future anywhere. Fair enough. You know, he comes out with 7 articles of impeachment, gets shunned, I'm shocked, by his friends in the Democrat Party. But his singing career, yeah, he didn't have one of those either. I'd never heard this. I'm just having some fun at the moment. Tell me what you think of Sri. Sri for me. I have never heard the term time blindness. I've never heard the term. Didn't even know. I asked Ivy. I said, what's time blindness? She's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And when you listen to this next comment from this young woman, I want you to consider time blindness as a handicap, as a concern. All right? What do you make of it? And you wonder what's wrong with Western civilization, not just America, but Canada and, you know, Europe and whatever else. Going forward, time blindness. Here's an education that here's a woman that's applied for a job and she's upset because people do not recognize time blindness. Here it is.
So I just got yelled at for asking a very reasonable question. So I'm applying to go somewhere, and I just wanted to know, are there accommodations for people who struggle with time blindness and being on time, you know? And then the person I was with interrupted and acted like I was asking something else, and then when we were done, they actually started yelling at me and saying that accommodations for time blindness doesn't exist, and if you struggle with being on time, you'll never be able to get a job. You know, provided you're trying your absolute best to be there. And then they're like, your stupid generation wants to destroy the workplace. And yeah, I think that a culture where workers are just cut off because they struggle with being on time, when there's other solutions that we can look to, I think that just anybody who thinks it's okay to just treat people like that, yeah, that culture needs to be dismantled. And then I asked that person, how can you feel good about yourself upholding this kind of system? And then to think I'm entitled. No, if people think it's okay to treat others like this, that's entitlement.
Okay, what do you think of that? Time blindness. Basically, she can't show up on time. She has time blindness. She's incapable of showing up to work on time. How would that work in radio? Huh? Anthony, is that a thing in your generation, time blindness?
I'd never heard of it.
Time blindness.
I think that's probably a bit younger than me, though.
That
probably
is.
Like the 18, 19, 20-year-olds of today.
Fair point. You can't be on time, time blind. So this person wants a job, just wants to show up whenever. Now, this goes hand in hand with something else that I heard. It's been a year since I heard this story. A friend of mine is hiring, right? Doesn't matter where, just hiring entry-level jobs, and gets a call. These are the college people, you know, college graduate entry-level jobs out of college, all right? Sets an interview, gets a call from one of the prospective employees who says, I just wanted to call and check in, confirm that I've got this interview, and I'm just wondering what I will be paid for this interview. And the guy's like, what? He goes, well, will I be getting paid for the job interview? To which my friend replies, what job interview? And hung up. No, you don't get paid for a job interview, you fool. What was wrong with you? I mean, No situational awareness, no understanding of how the world works, no discussion with parents, no parenting involved here. Time blindness? Give me a break. Paid for interviews? Get serious. We've set up a generation or two now who believe they're entitled to everything by doing nothing. How else would you gauge this? They think they should be paid for a job interview. They don't have a job, but they should be paid anyway. Once they get the job, potentially, they should be able to show up whenever they want, and you should make accommodations. And if you don't make accommodations, you're entitled. You're an entitled individual if people show up on time for your company. We're in deep trouble here, folks. We are in deep trouble. I don't know how else to look at it. And that's just a part of the problem. Luckily, we do have an increase in people volunteering for the military. We do have that going for us, so at least that's good news, right? That is good news as far as that goes. At least some people are starting to get back into the swing of things and get involved again. Yeah, get involved again. By the way, I'm going to have a, coming up Wednesday, Dr. Peter McCullough will be joining me for a Spaces event on X. It's a conversation. Dr. Peter McCullough will be there. We're going to invite others as well. Might have a surprise guest or two as we put that together. We're going to be talking about ivermectin and mebendazole. We're going to talk about parasites in part. We're going to talk about all the revelations about COVID, Dr. McCullough and I. So find us on X Wednesday night at 9 Eastern. You're going to want to join that conversation. Talk about why parasite cleanses are so important, why COVID has now been exposed for what it is, what's happening with Health and Human Services, and our friend Bobby Kennedy. All of that coming up Wednesday night at 9 on X. Don't miss it. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Pure Michigan water has never righty then. It's time to check it out sports with Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. The Golden State Warriors got 33 points from Buddy Hield, and they took Game 7 of their first-round NBA playoff series 103-89 over the Houston Rockets on the road last night. Warriors take the series 4-3. They'll face the Minnesota Timberwolves in Round 2. Round 2 of the playoffs began last night in the NBA with Game 1 between Indiana and Cleveland. Andrew Nebhart had 23 points to lead the Indiana Pacers past the Cavaliers 121-112. Game 2 of the series is tomorrow night in Cleveland. Adam Lowry scored at 16:10 of the second overtime period to give the Winnipeg Jets a 4-3 victory over the St. Louis Blues in Game 7 of their first-round series in Winnipeg. Jets take the series 4-3. They'll face the Dallas Stars in Round 2 on Wednesday night. And in Major League Baseball yesterday, American League winners included Tampa Bay, Detroit, and Texas. National League winners included Atlanta, Milwaukee, and San Diego. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock, thank you for that. I was just taking a note from Jeff. He said the mushrooms should be in this week. Well, I've got news. Mushrooms are in many places all over Michigan, all over the Midwest. I've been watching reports from my friends in Ohio, and they are killing it down there. Defiance, Ohio, the last report that came in. So northern Ohio, they're just killing it there. And that's been true. Pretty good year so far. This rain, got a bunch of rain over the weekend and cool temperatures. Ground's warm enough. The rain keeps them in the refrigerator, as my other friend Pat says. Pat is the mushroom man. He's in southern Michigan. Yeah. And he says the blacks are in, the blondes are coming. We're mushroom hunters. We enjoy it a lot. And so we're actually going to join Pat tonight for a little mushroom picking down in the southern part of the state. Ivy and I'll have a full report for you tomorrow, but I've already seen the pictures. As you notice, I'm not looking for mushrooms. I'm going to pick mushrooms. Morels, love them. The steak is thawed and the mushrooms are on the way. Man, that's the way to live. You know, a rib eye and some morels. Yes, sir. God bless America. All right. Nice to see you on a Monday here on the program. Don't forget to follow us on X, Facebook, Instagram, Truth, all of it. Watch it live on YouTube. It's The Steve Gruber Show. Lighting the fuse now on another big hour here on the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to have you along for the conversation. Remember, this could have a triggering effect on you. You might have wild enthusiasm for America. You might become more patriotic. This could make you believe in America. That's a triggering effect. You have been warned. Here are the three big things you need to know this hour on the Steve Gruber Show. Number one, a Michigan bill to legalize wildlife feeding hits close to home for one lawmaker, a guy we know, that's for sure. Number two, Dana Nessel versus Donald Trump. Michigan's AG asking for more legal muscle while preaching independence. That's what you would expect. And number three, my friends, a first-of-its-kind program. Could it stop Michigan's next school shooter? This comes to the first two stories are from my good friends at Michigan News Source, my news company. Katie Hyde will be joining me in a few minutes to talk about the big news in Michigan over the last few days and looking forward. But this article comes from down the street. Detroit News has this one today. A first-of-its-kind program to stop school shootings. A pilot program in Michigan. Now, I have specific ideas on how to stop school shootings, but I'm always willing to listen to conversations that might get us there. That's why this article caught my attention. Dateline, Lincoln Park. An intervention program designed to find and thwart the next school shooter in Michigan has moved into its first Metro Detroit school district to train employees on a first-of-its-kind model in the nation. Prevent to Protect is the name of the program. Prevent to Protect. It's a $15 million project funded by the Michigan Department of Education. It's designed to prevent acts of adolescent violence and increase school safety. The 5-year pilot pulls together the expertise of mental health providers, law enforcement, and educators at a research to practice hub at Michigan State University's Department of Psychiatry. All right, so the program, which was started in the 2022-2023 school year, focuses on early intervention and providing long-term intervention support such as mentoring, mental health treatment for the student, and services for their family. 4 regional teams, one at Lincoln Park Public Schools, and then one at Ingham County Intermediate School District, Calhoun Intermediate School District, and the West Shores ESD. It's gotten 69 referrals at last report for high-risk middle and high school kids as of April. It determined 36 of those were eligible for the program, 28 active adolescents it is supporting and mentoring, according to the program officials. Now, the kids that have been referred either threatened to bring a gun to school, pretended to have a gun in school, committed assault in school, made a bomb threat, or created a hit list, or any and all of the above. A Michigan superintendent discovered a kill list written by a student in Memphis Community School just last week. The list titled Kill List Today, reported by another student on an anonymous tip line. According to the program's director, Dr. Elise Lay, an associate professor of child and adolescent psychiatry at Michigan State, the program in its first year averted 2 planned attacks, a suicide plan in the case of child abuse neglect where the child had access to weapons. A lot of research on this, but now we know about averted attacks, we know about gun violence, but what are we doing to stop this? Now look, from where I come from, special resource officers, SROs, would be a big part of this. And as we've talked about this program a number of times, in not one school district where the faculty and staff can carry concealed anywhere in America has there been any school shooting of any sort. Not one school shooting, let alone a mass shooting event. If faculty and staff can carry concealed in places like Tennessee, Ohio, and Texas, where schools allow this to happen, not one. A lot of research on this, they said. So years and years ago, we put together a model which is now Prevent to Protect, and that model is of intensive supports. It involves system navigation. It involves mentorship of young people. Our belief is that one adult, one person can change the trajectory of a kid's life. That's true, but can you stop a mass shooting? Once a student is identified by their local district and deemed eligible by Prevent to Protect, the program starts with a multidisciplinary assessment at MSU that includes a psychiatric social needs assessment for the child. The team gathers all records and documents it can about the student and creates an individualized care plan that is shared with the student's school district. We want to know everything we can possibly find out about the kid. Everything. Pediatric records, community mental health records, interviews with law enforcement, all of it. The Hub helps Michigan school districts establish intensive support teams for the students and their families. Those teams conduct ongoing risk and needs assessments and coordinate individual care plans that may include medical, mental health, education, employment services for the family. Part of the program helps families navigate the multiple systems required to get their child the help they need. It includes housing families in hotels during assessments, gas cards to travel to Michigan State. Students are supposed to be identified for the program through their school district's threat assessment team, but there's a lack of standardized protocols, said Lay, and the threat assessments across the state makes that challenging. Plus, school staffers who are team members leave the district for other jobs. Of course, people move around. I think we're at the infancy of implementing behavioral threat assessment across the state. I think Michigan is ahead of some states, way ahead, and that's due to the Office of School Safety and all the work that they have done. All Michigan schools required by law no later than October 1, 2026 to establish a behavior threat assessment and management team under Governor Gretchen Whitmer's school safety package that was signed into law in January. Each team, which the district must staff and train, is tasked with monitoring concerning behaviors by students, implementing supportive measures to mitigate potential threats, and providing students with the tools they need to thrive. I guess we'll find out. If it's all quiet here, then I'll listen. Look, they stopped two school shootings, they believe. That's success. But I believe to stop all school shootings, it has to be multidimensional. This program will not stop them all. Listen, I don't understand school shootings at all. When we were kids, during hunting season, we took guns to school. Deer season, there was a shotgun in my car. Oftentimes, other people as well. Not a big deal. We didn't wander down the hall pulling the trigger. That was the difference. We didn't kill people. Something about the degradation of the value of human life in this day and age. Sad, really. It's where we are, though. So I go back to, places like Detroit. They've never had a school shooting. Why? Because they have police right there on campus. The Detroit Public Schools has its own police department, armed and ready and reacting to all potential threats. Same thing in big city schools don't have this happen because they are armed response, right? There's an armed response and it's instantaneous. But I like this idea. I give it credit. It's heads up. They're trying to protect our children, and that I respect. So I'll give credit where credit is due. Nice job, Governor Whitmer, and nice job to everybody on this program. It's a step forward. It's worth evaluating. Let's see if it can help. Will it do it all by itself? No, but let's see if it can help. Straight ahead, Katie Hyde from Michigan News Source here on the Steve Gruber Show. I'll be right back. Well, here we are back into It's a Monday, kicking off the week with my friend Katie Hyde, the Michigan News Source Assistant News Director, joining me now from her secret office. Katie, good morning. How are you? In her secret newsroom.
Yeah, good morning. I'm well. How are you?
I am well. I saw something here. Oh, I wanted to say this. Oh, yeah, here's a nice story I found at Michigan News Source today. Something nice to start our day, Katie. And that's the record-setting loons. They're back. These two have been together for a long time. The female, Fee, estimated between 42 and 47 years of age. The male, known as ABJ, is 38. The oldest documented common loon pair on record. They've been nesting there. It's the Seney National Wildlife Refuge since 1997. What a cool story this is. These two have been together for longer than most of my kids have been around.
It's a nice love story, isn't it? It's with all the political things going on. It's a nice palate cleanser, I think. So, yeah, check out MichiganNewsSource.com for more on that story.
Yeah, I like it. So what is on your radar for today? What do you got?
Well, we're, of course, always looking at the political landscape here in Michigan. An interesting story that dropped late on Friday, and it was kind of had all these moving pieces as we sailed into the weekend. But the House Election Integrity Committee here in Michigan has been after Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson for about 5 months now. They have requested election training materials that she sent to the clerks around the state, and they've been back and forth where Benson said, I have these election training materials. The House committee said we would like them. She said, I want to protect the privacy of voters in Michigan, and they went back and forth for several months. Finally, a couple of weeks ago, the committee issued her a subpoena and said, turn over these documents. These are documents that clerks have access to. Give us access. What are you hiding? Late on Friday, she sent over 1,900 pages of documents. This is from her office. And a couple of hours later, Speaker Pro Tem Rochelle Smith, who used to be a clerk herself, said, this is 1,900 pages of documents we don't need, that we didn't ask for. You still haven't sent them. So it's been this back and forth. We're going to see where that develops today, if Benson will send over any more, if the committee or Rochelle Smith will issue some more subpoenas or some more instructions, but that's definitely something we're going to keep an eye on.
Meanwhile, Jocelyn Benson's running for governor, right? I mean, so I just don't see how this helps her in her pursuit of being the governor of the state of Michigan. Maybe I'm wrong. I just don't see how this helps her.
And she has touted herself as a person that is transparent and isn't afraid of accountability, but at every turn she seems to hide things or send over documents, but it's heavily redacted, or no, you can send the subpoena, but I'll see you in court. But she did say that about this situation. She sent it over on what was Friday, May 2nd. The deadline was May 14th. But again, if it's documentation that the House didn't ask for and doesn't help them, this is a problem. So we're a year and a half away from the gubernatorial election. People have a tendency to move on with their lives and forget these little things. But the more that they add up, I think the more that she's going to show that she isn't as transparent as she projects.
Yeah. I think she's got some challenges here. I'm going to agree with you on Katie. I think she has some forthcoming challenges on that. What else is going on this week?
Well, last week we covered Donald Trump's 100 days in office, and I know you were down there covering that event as well. So we're looking at Governor Whitmer. What is next for her? She obviously can't run for governor again because of term limits, but she has had an interesting relationship with Donald Trump. That's
one way to put it. It's interesting. All right, go ahead.
Yes, and so she campaigned so hard for Vice President Kamala Harris. She was co-chair of her election campaign, and then Donald Trump gets elected, and now she has to work. This has been Governor Whitmer's cornerstone, really, of a lot of her campaign speeches as she's been the governor and she ran for re-election was, I grew up in a bipartisan household. I'm willing to work with anyone. And now she's being forced to work with Donald Trump. And we saw this when she went in the Oval Office and had those file folders, but also last week with the Selfridge Air Force Base and Trump giving them 21 new fighter jets. And you and I were talking about this last week. I loved the clip after Bill Maher met with President Trump in the White House.
Yeah.
And he's not as conservative, Bill Maher, and he doesn't really like Trump, but he liked him during that visit. And he told all about his visit and how Trump wasn't who he expected. He also had a clip where he said Governor Whitmer, when Donald Trump called her up to the mic last week and she wasn't expecting it and was to talk about what happened there at Selfridge Air Force Base, Maher said she needs to own it. And this is the thing. She can't own it because the Democratic Party owns her. And the Democratic Party does not want to work with Donald Trump, does not want to give credit where credit is due. And so if she is looking at a run for president in a couple of years,
of course
this is probably not going to help her with her party.
Yeah. The worst kept secret in Lansing is how her, I mean, and I've got a story I'm going to cover here before this day is out. And that is that Joe Biden's team specifically refused a cognitive test of then President Joe Biden February of 2024 last year. Just think how the world would have been different, Katie, if there had been an open primary. Maybe Gretchen Whitmer would have run for president and not Kamala Harris. Who knows what would have happened. But yes, her goal is to be president. That's clear. And we'll see how that plays out. Plus, Dana Nessel in more fistfights with the president. We'll talk about that as well going forward this week. Katie Hyde from Michigan News Source. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate it. MichiganNewsSource.com, by the way. You can read about those lovebirds, the record-setting loons, which I think is cool, by the way. And Dana Nessel in fights with Donald Trump and a bill to legalize wildlife feeding here in Michigan. That means feeding the deer in addition to everything else. It's all at MichiganNewsSource.com. Check it out. It's your best source for Michigan news. MichiganNewsSource.com. A break and I'll be back. Hey, here we go. Just looking at the stock market futures here today. Looks like the Dow will be off a couple of hundred points in early trading, but the market's still over 41,000 now, at 41,200, even with that slight sell-off of about 0.5%. S&P will be down a little bit. NASDAQ down maybe a percentage point as well. All pretty neutral, I would say. In Michigan, they're looking to legalize the feeding of wildlife, including deer. Ken Borton testified before the House Natural Resources and Tourism Committee in support of House Bill 4350, allowing people in Michigan to feed birds and wildlife recreationally without fear of prosecution. Yeah, we want our grandkids to sit by the window with bated breath when a blue jay or black bear appears in the backyard. Those are core memories to help young people fall in love with the great outdoors, he said. Yet this is exactly what the DNR is taking away with their bird feeder fear and clear abuse of law enforcement. They should be chasing down poachers, not little old women with an affinity for bird watching. You see, Borton and his wife operate Snowman Cam, a 24/7 live stream of Borton's backyard. People can access the camera, see birds, turkeys, squirrels, rabbits, deer, bears, all stopping by for a quick snack. In 2010, conservation officers from the DNR issued him a ticket that he could either take down the bird feeders or take it to court. So he went to court where the judge dismissed the case. 4 months later, the DNR issued another ticket. That case thrown out too. People all over the state being harassed. We don't have enough officers to harass people like this. We don't. We don't have enough people to harass people like this. We don't have enough DNR officers to do that. So stop it. Just stop it. I agree with Ken Borton on that. Let's see. Coming up, Tim Golding will be here, Americans for Prosperity's Michigan State Director. AFP will be hosting a congressional conversation with Lisa McClain, the Republican chair in the House. What does that mean? What are we going to be talking about with old Lisa McClain? Let's find out after the break here on the Steve Gruber Show. Coming up tomorrow, the 6th of May at 3 in the afternoon, Americans for Prosperity will be hosting a conversation with Republican Conference Chair Lisa McClain of Michigan. She represents Michigan 9 in the House. Yeah, they'll be holding that conversation tomorrow. She is ascended reasonably quickly, has Lisa McLean. Tim Golding joins me. He's Americans for Prosperity's Michigan State Director. Tim, nice to see you today.
Good morning, Steve. How you doing?
I'm well. All right, so a lot of questions about where we are with the legislative agenda of the House Republicans, because we all know, Tim, if all of these, 130 executive orders, whatever it is now since Donald Trump took office, unless these things get codified, put into law by way of, votes in the House and Senate and signed by the president, they're only as good as he is in office. And so this big, beautiful bill is really important. That's got to be top of mind for folks at AFP. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of stuff that will go away if it's not codified. One of the biggest things is the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that we were proud to support in 2017. And if it's not extended and hopefully made permanent by the end of this year, then all those tax benefits that we saw starting after it was passed will go away. And, when that was passed, we saw 5 million new jobs added to the economy within the first 28 months. The median household income went up 8.5%. We had the lowest unemployment rate since 1969, ironically, the year I was born. So there was a lot of good stuff that happened with that Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, and we need that to be made permanent and extended. And right now, the House and the Senate are doing their reconciliation dance, and they're getting stuff hopefully pared down so that they can offset the tax breaks with savings and cutting waste, fraud, and abuse, and every American can benefit, and jobs can be secured, and companies can be more certain of the future that they're not going to have tax increases next year.
Yeah, right now, look, the unemployment rate, the jobs came out 177,000, stronger than expected here last week. Unemployment rate's 4.2%. The inflation rate's 2.4%, Tim. A lot of good things in the economy, but again, unless it's codified, unless it's put into law actually, then whoever the president is next time, and maybe it's not somebody you agree with, could just deep six all of it.
Absolutely. They need to get that stuff taken care of, whether that's immigration, the border, getting rid of that green energy mandates that crippled our economy, and the IRA Act, and all those things need to be changed, and we need to codify the good stuff that Donald Trump wants to get done in the administration now. And the event that we're doing tomorrow actually, in D.C., we're going to take 4 business owners from the state of Michigan, fly them out to D.C., and they're going to be part of an event with Congresswoman Lisa McLean and Katie Pavlich from Fox News. So they're going to be talking about the reconciliation bills and how that's working, timelines, what the process is roughly, but more importantly, how it affects and impacts persons in our state, how it affects families, how it affects jobs. So these business owners that we've got are going to go out there with us and tell their story and be part of that program. So we're excited to take people out there and, again, just amplify what needs to be made permanent before the end of the year. And hopefully the House will vote in around Memorial Day, and the Senate will get this to the president so he can sign it on July 4th. That would be a fantastic thing to have that signed and made permanent going into the 250th anniversary next year.
Does it concern you at all?
We're looking forward to it.
Tim, that the original date was Memorial Day. Now it's pushed back to the 4th of July. Does that concern you, or you just think that that's the workload involved to create this bill the way it should be? The concern for me is, and always has been, these giant bills are hard to read, hard to understand. I'd be much happier in a world where you had single issue bills. Here's your one bill, one topic, one bill, one vote, one after another. Now, having said that, in this particular case, maybe this is the effective way to get it done, finally. But it concerns me because you end up with all this paperwork. Nobody ever reads the things, right? Not the whole thing together. Go ahead.
Ideally, they would do, in my opinion, if they could vote on every single bill individually and debate it on the floor the way it should be, that'd be fantastic. But we're not in that reality right now. So if this one big, beautiful bill can get passed, that's fantastic. But they do need to be expeditious about it. Last time when it passed, they moved too slowly, and they had to get some stuff done at the last moment, and they weren't able to make it permanent. So if they're working hard, and I know they are because we've had conversations with all of them, that they're going to get this done, that it will be done by July 4th. which would be fine. But if it gets much further down the road than that, then there could be issues where they're having to take things out or make things less beautiful, as it's called. So hopefully July 4th it'll be done on the president's desk.
So your priority is with tax policy, right? Your priorities with tax policy. What else do you want to see from this administration? Obviously, a lot of things are going on globally. You've got tariffs. You've got Canada that I think pretty sure committed political suicide here a week ago, as they continue to want to pursue apparently. Under their new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, they want to pursue net zero policies which are absolutely asinine. But what are your priorities? What do you want to see?
I want to see a secure border with high fences and wide gates. I want to see the immigration policies reformed, where people that can want to come here to make this country a better place can do so when it's not taking them decades to get here. I want the green new energy mandates gone away with, and we need energy of abundance from all sources. There's no necessarily bad energy, but when it's mandated on consumers and on citizens, that's just not the right way to do it. I want to see all these corporate handouts and welfare and cronyism go away. And when those things start happening and we get back to educating our kids, I want to see our education system reformed, where the power is back at the state level and parents have the opportunity to take their educational dollars and follow their kid and not a zip code or a building, and find the educational platforms that work best for their children. You know, education is not a one size fits all system. And healthcare, I want to see healthcare reform where we have more access.
I want to stop right there and comment on what you just said, Tim. I want the educational dollars not just to follow kids in middle school and high school, but I would like to see us invest in carpenters and plumbers and electricians and tradespeople, men and women, truck drivers that we need in this country, all of those things, instead of the one size fits all, as you just mentioned. Exactly right. We don't want everybody to go to college. Not everybody should go to college. In fact, some people that are really smart should go start businesses. There's something we don't talk about in America. Go start a small business. Create some prosperity for yourself. That's what I'd like to see happen. I'll give you the last word, Tim.
Yeah, ironically, I have a bachelor's degree in sports medicine, but I ran and owned a residential building company with my brother for about 30 years. And it's an alarming statistic that for every 5 people that retire out of the trades, whether that's, building, remodeling, plumbers, electricians, whatever, there's only 2 people taking their place.
Yeah, it's
so
terrible.
we really need to focus on that.
Yeah. If you're in the construction trades right now, you can write your own ticket. You can be 20 years old with $100,000 in the bank and not $100,000 of student debt. Tim Golding, Americans for Prosperity, Michigan State Director, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Steve. Have a good day.
You too. All right, we'll take a break. When I come back, we're living right because Ivy is in the house. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Hey, Aaron, I did. All right, back to it. I'm living right because Ivy is here with me. Ivy, I mentioned earlier that according to all field reports, the mushrooms are here. We're going to actually go down to southern Michigan later today with a good friend of ours, Mushroom Man, the Mushroom Man Pat, and go wild with morels. Nice to see you today.
Good morning, Steve. Yeah, for the foragers out there listening and watching,
It's
it is
showtime.
that time of year for morels and pheasant backs and oysters. We actually found a bunch of oysters the other day, which were delicious.
They were. We should have taken more of them. I mean, there's a whole bunch of them. We took, that's enough. No, we should have taken more. We plowed through those in like a day.
For sure, yeah. But it is a magical time of year. And actually, speaking of mushrooms, I read this really cool article. Scientists have used electrodes to discover that fungi do have their own language.
What?
Yeah, isn't this incredible? In
What do you
some
mean,
ways,
mushrooms are chatting with each other?
well, they emit rich patterns of electrical activity that is interpreted as language, with words and sentences that have characteristics similar to English and Swedish.
Really?
Yeah. So, likewise, slime molds, plants, and oyster mushrooms send out blasts of electrical activity similar to those in human nervous systems.
So wait a second. So when I rip the oysters from the base of the tree and put them in my bag, are they screaming, ah?
Well, you would wonder. They do talk to one another. Of course, you know the mycelium that runs underneath the ground all have this
everywhere.
interconnected world underneath the ground. And so you wonder how they're actually communicating there. That is interesting.
Yeah.
But so these are, the scientists actually said, are the elaborate patterns of electrical activity used by fungi to communicate states of the mycelium and its environment and to transmit the process of information in the mycelium networks. Is there a language of fungi, is what they've asked. And it's just really, really, really incredible. Based on the findings, they believe that by measuring the complexity of the fungal languages using their algorithms, it may even be possible to distinguish dialects of different species of fungus. How cool is that?
That is remarkable. And I mean, we've talked about this, you and I, a lot, and that is this mycelium. It's like a spider web that runs through the earth everywhere. And apparently there is communication. If I step on the ground here, the mushrooms a mile away or 2 miles away might know that that happened. Or if there's a herd of deer or bear or whatever it might be. It's like there's an awareness in the earth itself. Maybe that's why grounding is so, important for people.
Mm-hmm.
Just throwing it out there.
Grounding being that, walking barefoot on the grass. I mean, some people don't ever do that for years and years and years, but it
Some
does.
people were told not to do that for years and years.
Well, some people might neglect their feet health, and as a result, can be prone to infection.
Boy, am I in trouble now. Woo-wee! Yeah.
Anyhow, yes, it does have this incredible way of grounding you to the earth, and if you do this daily, it is said to help you sleep better, overall just be emotionally better. So try it out.
Stable. Yeah,
I mean, it's
grounding.
kind of tough to do in, the winter when it's, ice and snow, but in the springtime and the rest of the year, try it out.
Grounded to the ice, which,
Of course,
by the
if
way,
you're in a place that has ice and snow.
Yeah. Did the ice bath yesterday. That was a shocking reminder of what life can be like when it's cold. Anyhow.
Oh, my goodness. I actually managed to do it myself. I really struggle. I have to get in and out like 3 or 4 times in order to just kind of get numb. And then I finally get in, and I usually last about 45 seconds to a minute.
What is the temperature of these ice baths?
I think it's 50.
It's got to be
degrees.
colder than that.
It feels colder than that, but I think that the maximum temperature was 51. So it could be anywhere from 45 to 51. Yeah.
All right, because I thought it was like 35.
Speaking of cold temperatures,
Go ahead.
really great. Antarctica gains ice for the first time in decades.
Massive amounts from what I read.
Yeah, reversing trends of mass loss. A study published this week in Science Earth China Studies finds that the Antarctic ice sheet experienced a record-breaking mass gain between 2021 and 2023, largely due to a lot of rain. So, interestingly enough, we aren't going to die after all from the climate changing and
climate
the
change.
the ice melting and then everything being drowned out by raising sea levels.
Which, by the way, it comes
Just so you
back
know,
to
Steve,
me.
we're going to live.
Well, I get that. Mark Carney there, the newly elected Prime Minister of Canada, who renounced his citizenship in Ireland and the UK, by the he was a citizen of 3 countries when he became the Prime Minister here a week ago, still pursuing net zero. I mean, he's trying to destroy, what does Canada have in spades? Energy. Same as America, but Canada's really set up there in Alberta and the western provinces. They're going to try to destroy it. Destroy it.
Well, I think people will just end up leaving the country and moving to United States or other places that they can actually afford to live because, one, when we visited Canada, we noticed that even at that time, the gas prices are really high. Everything was a lot more expensive in Canada. So that's just going to drive prices incredibly high. And the poorest people in the countries are the ones that suffer. They can't afford it. I mean, I don't even understand how they could afford it before. Imagine now.
Yeah, unbelievable. You can't. It's destructive, anyhow. So, always good to see Ivy. Thank you for being here, as always.
Happy to be here, Steve.
Love you. I'm also pretty well irritated, as Ivy knows, about all this X nonsense from Elon Musk. He keeps changing the algorithm. She says I shouldn't worry about it. But to me, they tell us to get the blue check. It helps. Post more. It helps. Then they say post less. It helps. It's just reminding me that this is all maddening. Anyhow, we'll take a break. It's the Steve Gruber Show on a Monday. We'll be right back. right, back to it now. Look, another headline I wanted to get to here this day that I missed, but I want to talk to you about real quickly. Trans athletes. In Maine, a trans athlete has dominated girls' track and field this year. A local photographer reporting that supporters chanted for the athlete to beat the girls during all events. The trans athlete, by the way, who was not even in the top, anywhere near the top in track, won the 800-meter girls event, the 1,600-meter girls event. Here's what's really galling. This athlete has been making headlines in Maine ever since they jumped to fourth place in the 5K division after previously finishing 172nd among the boys. And now, the athlete won the 600-meter race, blowing away the second-place runner. In the 800-meter, won again. This is just not who we are. I have daughters. If you have daughters and granddaughters, sisters and wives, why would we allow this to continue? Why is the state of Maine allowed to give the proverbial middle finger to its women? Now, don't worry about the fact that Donald Trump said you can't do this. Don't worry about that. Worry about the fact that they are not paying attention to girls and women. Yeah. Anyhow, it's inexcusable that they allow this to continue. Maine, you ought to be ashamed. The whole damn state should be ashamed. Seriously. Seriously. All right, glad to have you here. Brand new. How'd you like the new set, by the way? Like the flag here? I kind of like it a lot. Fight's a good fight. Keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is the Steve Gruber Show. And remember, only you can save America.